Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's Associations 101 webinar. This is our 8th event in our series organized by Elizabeth Engel from Spark Consulting, Scott Oser from Scott Oser Associates, and Peach New Media. These monthly webinars are designed for association staffers to build their knowledge of the association world. We will deliver these in a fun format focusing on 10 tips in 20 minutes, and we will conclude each webinar with a 10-minute Q&A session. Please note that in order to have the best audio experience, you should listen to the session over your computer speakers. If you have any problems with the audio, please refresh your interface by pressing F5 on your keyboard or using the refresh button located in the announcements box. All right, without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's webinar, 10 Tips to Successful Exhibit, Sponsorship, or Advertising Sales at Your Association. Our speaker today is Scott Oser, President of Scott Oser Associates. All right, Scott, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Marilyn, and thanks to everybody for joining me today. I just wanted to start off by kind of welcoming everyone and saying, again, thank you very much for attending, but also to let you know that because of this format, if you haven't participated in one of our other webinars before, it's pretty rapid fire. So literally I have 10 slides with 10 different tips, and my number one goal is to get you enough information on these things that you can be a little bit dangerous so that you can increase your revenue, but also so that we finish on time. Because of the desire to do that, I'm not going to skimp on any content, but there may be some details that you need, or there may be some questions that you're going to want answered because I just haven't gone as in-depth or in the direction that you're sort of looking for. So feel free to ask questions. We are going to have 10 minutes at the end to answer any questions, and anything that doesn't get answered then, I'm happy to answer offline as well. So let's just get started right away. As sort of to start out, the title, as Marilyn mentioned, is 10 Tips to Successful Exhibit Sponsorships or Advertising Sales at Your Association. I've been fortunate to work at a number of different associations, and since becoming a consultant, work with a large number of associations on basically increasing their non-dues revenue in these areas. And what I'm going to do is walk you through 10 pretty basic tips, but they're very critical things that I think any organization, any association can use to really be more strategic and be more effective in their sales. So here we go. Number one, know your products and your audiences inside and out. This might sound like it's sort of marketing 101, and in many ways that it is. But the reason I put this up here, number one, is that if you don't understand your products and you don't understand the benefits and the unique selling propositions for your different products, and then based on that, who the audiences are for those separate products, you're basically going to be throwing what I call sort of your Chinese menu out at everybody. You're going to ask your prospects to basically look through a large list of different opportunities, different benefits, different things that they can take advantage of. And in the world we live in today, people don't have the time, they don't have the patience to really do that. So you need to understand the benefits of your products. You need to understand who is the best fit for purchasing or using those products, and that could be your magazine, it could be your exhibit hall, it could be your trade show, it could be any of the products that you sell. And then what you need to do is pair that with those appropriate audiences and then market accordingly. Audience is really, really key. I know many times associations describe their audience. What I mean in this sense is who is reading their magazine, who is attending their trade show, who is purchasing their products, basically who are the eyeballs that a sponsor, an advertiser, or an exhibitor could get in front of if they were to buy an ad or buy a booth or do something like that. They really need to know who is going to see them, what the audience is comprised of that's going to see them. Associations often go to their demographics of their membership, but your membership could be slightly different than who's reading your magazine. It could be significantly different than who is attending your trade show. So keep in mind that your audience, your demographics, your description of who the sponsor, exhibitor, advertiser is going to get in front of could potentially be different than just your demographics of your membership. Number two, know your prospects and their needs. This is a complicated but not impossible thing to do. If you have based on the types of products and services that you offer and based on your audiences and their needs, there are going to be certain types of companies that are going to be more interested in the different opportunities, non-dues opportunities that you offer. So as much as you can, you need to understand who the prospect base is, the types of people that they want to get in front of. So if you know that your prospects are looking to sell a product to high-level managers, then you want to let them know that you have a number of high-level managers that you're going to be able to get them in front of. If you know that they want to reach the people that have the budget authority, then you're going to want to let them know that. If you know that a lot of your prospects are looking to reach people in a certain geographical region, you're going to want to let them know that as well. So it's very, very important to know who your prospects are and the best that you can find out what their needs are. There's a number of ways that you can do that. You can look at what they're doing at other shows. You can look at what they're doing in other magazines. You can look on their websites. You can do all of those kind of things to really figure out what they are trying to accomplish and what their goals are, and then you can tailor your pitch towards them. Number 3, hit the low-hanging fruit first and often. There are definitely going to be groups of, for lack of a better term, prospects, companies that want to reach your audience that are going to be more likely to buy. These can be people who have bought in the past. These can be other companies that are doing a lot of advertising or exhibiting in competing journals, competing magazines, or at competing shows. And those are the people that you want to reach out to multiple times. In my experience, there's almost, in many industries, not all, it really depends on how much of a niche your association plays in, but many times there are lots and lots and lots of companies that could potentially want to reach your audience. The reason I say that you need to hit the low-hanging fruit first and often is the other challenge that associations have is a human resource issue. There are many associations that don't have a sales team. They don't have a salesperson whose only job is to do sales. So it's many times it's someone who's handling another job, like the editor or the meeting planner, or somebody like that who is also then selling advertising or selling exhibit space or selling sponsorship. So obviously that individual is not going to be able to contact every single person personally over time. They're just not going to be able to do it. So you've got to hit the low-hanging fruit first and often. The more you can do that, the more money and revenue that you can bring in from those folks, the more successful you're going to be. So you've got to figure out who that low-hanging fruit is, which goes back to the previous slide, know your prospects and their needs, and then get on top of them first and often, so that because they're the ones, it's sort of that 80-20 principle. The 20% of your audience is going to give you 80% of your revenue. It's probably not exactly right, but that's pretty close to what's going on. Create a strong media and sales kit. What I have seen over time is that there are lots of media kits, which, if you're not aware already, is basically what you would use to sell advertising. Sales kits could be prospectus for a meeting. It could be something else. But basically, these are your materials that you want to get in front of the prospects. And by a strong media and sales kit, what I mean is make sure you describe your audience. Make sure you describe your association, your organization, because there is lots of authenticity that comes along with being affiliated with an association. So if you can describe pretty briefly who your association is, what it does, then that will lead right into who your audience is. As much demographic information as you can get in front of the prospects will be fantastic, but the demographic information that you need to use needs to help them understand who your audience is and help them figure out on their own why they would want to get in front of them. So, for example, if you were to tell people, I'm trying to think of a good example, but if you were trying to say to people, okay, we have a male-female ratio of 75% male, 25% female, but in your industry and in the prospect's mind, that really doesn't impact whether they're going to want to get in front of your audience or not. Don't put that in your media kit. What you really want to do is put those key demographics in your media kit so that they can see them. What does the prospect need to know about your audience that's going to make them want to buy? Use bullet points. As marketers, sometimes we can get very verbose and we can write short stories or novels, whichever you want to call them. Prospects at these companies are getting proposals, they're getting prospectuses, they're getting media kits from lots of different places. They want to know as easily as possible, without having to read a novel, who are they going to reach, what are the opportunities, how much are they going to cost, how do they place an order. That's what they want to know. So when I say create a strong media and sales kit, that's what I mean. Be direct, be short, be concise, make it easy for them to understand exactly who your audience is. What I do now is basically I do email and phone follow-up. So we have a PDF up online that I can email. None of my current clients, and this has changed over time, but none of my current clients print their media kit anymore. I think it's a little bit different sometimes with prospectuses, but when it comes to media kits, I have found that email and phone follow-up works very, very well. It allows them to forward it on. It saves you money in printing and distribution. You don't end up with inventory. It allows you to tweak things over time if you need to make some changes. Let's say, for example, it's an exhibitor prospectus and you want to update the floor plan. You have the ability to do that. If you've printed your prospectus, you can't ask for them all back and mark off booths that have been sold. So there are money savings there, and so that's why that media kit or that sales kit is very, very important. Develop partners, not purchasers. This is a very important direction that sales are going these days. As I mentioned earlier, you want to hit your low-hanging fruit often and consistently. And the way you want to do that and why you want to do that, in addition to what I said before, is that you truly want to develop partners, not purchasers. You want people to understand who you are. You want your prospects to recognize who you are and as an individual and who is calling on them. So if you're doing sales on your own, it's great if you can call up and say, like I do a lot of times, hi, this is Scott calling from whatever. For many of my clients, I don't even have to use my last name anymore because once I say it's Scott calling from, they know exactly who I am because I've developed relationships with them. I talk to them on a consistent basis during the year. Once you sell something to somebody, your relationship is not over. It's not just, okay, cool, you guys bought, thank you very much. Now I'm going to leave you alone for the rest of the year. You need to be, just like with members, you need to be in consistent contact with them so that they feel like they're wanted, they feel like they're welcome, they feel like they're a partner to the organization. Another way you can look at developing partners, not purchasers, is with the people, because I know there are limited resources, so it would be very nice to talk to every single company that advertises or every single company that exhibits and have a strategic conversation with them. But because of human resources or lack thereof, I should say, in many situations, it's difficult to have those. But what you can do is find your low-hanging fruit, find the companies that do the most with you, basically spend the most money with you, and sit down and talk to them strategically. Talk to them about what their goals are. Talk to them about what they're looking to do. And then from there, you can make some recommendations on some packages that they might want to do. So by developing partners, number one, you're not just selling all the time. And as somebody who does sales and knowing a lot of people who do sell, there's still a perception of the ugly salesperson out there. And obviously, the ugly salesperson is not going to get any business. So if you treat people with respect, treat them as partners, then you're basically grow your business. Think creatively and create urgency in your offers. Again, this is sort of marketing 101, but you need to get your offers in front of people. You need to get them to open your emails, so your subject lines need to be important. They need to be enticing. You need to create urgency in your offers, so they need to have deadlines. A lot of times I'll do discounts for a limited period of time. I don't love discounts, but sometimes it works, especially if you're doing like an early bird. But you need to create that urgency. You need to let your prospects know that if they don't purchase within a certain period of time, they're going to miss out on the opportunity, or they're going to pay more, or they're going to miss out on. Sometimes what I'll do is, as value add, is offer something that doesn't cost the association anything, like whether it be an ad in an electronic newsletter or an ad on the website or something like that, when they purchase a print ad, or something special when they purchase a booth. But it's creating those reasons that the people that you're prospecting to have to respond and need to respond quickly. That's really the key, because otherwise, if you've got a magazine, there's really, unless they have to be in there because of topic, there's a possibility that they'll put it off to the next issue. So what? I missed this issue. I'll be in the next one. Or they can wait to book their exhibit space because, there's still plenty of space available. I'll wait. Or there's plenty of sponsorships. I'll just wait. You want them to commit as fast as you can. Market aggressively but respectfully, number 7. This is sort of the term that I came up with, and basically what that means is it goes back to forming partners and not purchasers. The typical salesy salesperson is a bad word. So if you're going to market to folks, you need to get in front of them, you need to give them a consistent effort, but you need to be respectful. If you're talking to somebody and they say, hey, look, you know what, I'm interested in purchasing an ad, but honestly, I'm not going to be ready until 30 days from now. Well, you write down in your database, you write down in your notes field, your tasks, whatever it is. I may not give them 30 days. I may give them 25 days or something like that. But if you call them the next day when somebody said, hey, give me 30 days, they're not going to buy from you. They're not going to respect you because you're not respecting them. So you need to be aggressive, but you need to do it in a respectful way, and that way you will have more success. Make saying yes easy, or try not to say no. There are definitely going to be occasions where people are going to call in with some odd requests or some weird packages and things like that they want to do, weird pricing. What you need to do is be able to work with them as much as you can. A lot of times they're just simply not going to work, but if as a staff, whether you have people selling with you or you don't have people selling with you, you need to come up with some guidelines of what will work and what you'll accept and what won't. So the more you can be flexible, don't give away the store, but the more you can be a little bit flexible, the more success you're going to have. Like I said before, I'm not a big fan of discounting, especially on booths and things like that. But if you're going to put together guidelines, let's use booth sales as an example. If you're going to put together some guidelines, maybe you do offer a tiny bit of a discount, way, way, way at the beginning, not at the end. You never want to offer the discount at the end because you're basically incentivizing people to wait, and that's not a good idea. With ads, if somebody says, hey, the ad is $1,500, I'd really like to pay $1,450. Okay, cool. That works for me. But if they say I want to pay $1.50, then you've got a whole other story. So you want to make saying yes easy, or do whatever you can to not say no, but you have to have guidelines for that. Trust your salespeople. Again, this is assuming that there are salespeople that work in your association. As I mentioned sort of with that last example, if somebody says, hey, I want to pay $1,450 for a $1,500 ad, don't drive your salespeople crazy and make them come back to you and get approval for small things like that. Yeah, it's $50. I understand that you'd much rather have the $50 in your pocket, but your salespeople, if you have them, which I know many of us don't, but if you have them, you've got to let them do their thing. You've got to let them form their relationships. You've got to set guidelines for them, though. So, again, they're not going to be able to accept an ad for $1.50 when it really should be $1,500. But if you give them some leeway, if you give them some space, and you trust them, then they'll respect you more, and then they'll end up working harder for you as well, and they'll hopefully bring in more sales as well. All right. I think we're almost at about 20 minutes. So keep things simple. This is my last slide. When it comes to your media kit, when it comes to your offers, when it comes to your approach, when it comes to all of these things, keep them simple. If you are, we'll use advertising as an example. If you've got 20 different ad sizes and different options, it's too much. Go through the different ad opportunities that you have, see what people are buying, see what people are not buying, and get rid of some of them. There's no reason to have a zillion different options because somebody bought 1/8 of a page ad last year. It just confuses everybody. Keep your order forms simple. Allow the people that want to basically just get the media kit or get the prospectus, fill it out, and send it back. Make it easy for them. Don't have 1,000 different boxes. Don't make it so complicated that they kind of look at the order form and go, wow, this is crazy. Make it easy for them to find who the salesperson is. Make it easy for them to figure out who they need to contact with questions. Keep everything as simple as you can so the orders come in faster. Our number one goal as salespeople, I think, is to provide our prospects with the resources that they need so in many ways that they can make the decision on their own. If we can bring in some business without having to do a lot of work, it allows us to spend more time on developing those relationships, finding new prospects, and doing those kind of things so that you can grow your business over time. You're not just helping people fill out forms and asking questions, which should be very, very simple. So that is all that I have. I think we're just about at 20 minutes. So like I said, I know I sort of whizzed through those and rushed through those a little bit. Hopefully I gave you guys enough clarity on most of them so that it was valuable. But if there are any questions, we can take them now.
All right, and before we jump into questions, I just want to remind everyone to ask a question. Just click on that Q&A tab in the upper portion of your screen. You'll have the option to type a question into a box, and then you can press Ask to submit that question to us. All right, our first question is, how often is too often? What is the recommended spacing of notifications via email, mail, or phone?
I think it really depends on what you're selling to a certain extent. I'll start with one example, which would be advertising. Let's say you've got a bi-monthly issue, which a lot of my clients have. So every 2 months there's an issue, which means the deadlines for those issues are spread out about 60 days. What I like to do and what I have found successful is when one issue closes, you wait a few days, 3, 4, 5 business days so that people can take a little bit of a breath. You send out that first email that says, hey, you know what, we're now working on let's say the March-April issue, and the deadline is coming up in this many days. Then what I'll do is I'll make phone calls right after that, make as many phone calls as we can to the prospects. And then usually about 30 days out from the deadline, I would send another email, call again. 2 weeks before, send another email. A week before, and then the day before the deadline. So really you're going more or less 60 days, 30 days, 2 weeks, 1 week, 1 day, and then you're calling constantly in between. Sometimes, depending on how sales come in, I may introduce another email at like 45 days before, or I may, if things are going very, very well, I may cut out the 7-day email and just make it 2 weeks and then 1 day in before. But the key, I think, with that approach is that phone follow-up. I think if you're not contacting people in some way in between your emails, then you probably need to do more emails. The other thing is that every association and every audience is going to be different. So you need to watch your opt-outs, you need to watch your open rates and things like that, just like you would with any other marketing. I think that same sort of thing, it works a little bit differently for sponsorship and for exhibit space. But that said, if you have an early bird deadline, let's say your early bird deadline is 90 days away, and you know that space is at a premium and people want certain spaces, well, you could start 90 days before. You could start 120 days before. But again, what you really want to do is you want to ramp up the number of emails that you're sending and the amount of calling that you're doing as you get closer to the deadline, because you want people to know, all right, they got 2 weeks, they got a week, they got a day. I haven't really done it much because I really think it's overkill, but you could say a day of. You could send one the day of. Hey, today is the deadline. If we don't get it from you today, then that's fine. And what I'm talking here is more mass email. Obviously, if you've got a warm lead or somebody who's told you that they're potentially interested, then you would probably follow a different guideline for those guys, because you definitely want to contact them by phone. You definitely want to contact them by email, but then it becomes more one-to-one. so you can check in and say, hey, if somebody says, hey, I'm going to get the reservation form to you as soon as I can. Well, if you haven't gotten it in a couple of days, then you're probably going to pick up the phone. If you haven't gotten it a couple of days after that, you're probably going to shoot an email and say, I thought you were sending it to me. I still haven't seen it. Just wanted to make sure everything was okay, or that you hadn't sent it and somehow it got lost in the ether internet somewhere. So that's slightly different. But on mass emails, I think just make sure that you increase that frequency as you get closer and closer to the deadline.
All right, thanks so much. Our next question is, how do you handle when different people sell different things?
That is always a little bit tricky, but it can definitely be done. I think that even if you are sort of siloed in your sales efforts, the real key is that you understand who is selling what, and and the people sort of coordinate together and share information. Even though there's different efforts going on all the time, it's still important that they work as a team as much as possible. And if that's not possible, then really you just need to do what you can and listen to the prospects. And if they say, hey, I've just got 1 million emails from so-and-so or whatever, then you can do that. But really the key is to play off of each other and to work together when it comes to share prospects, share information, all that kind of information that you would use to sell, because you may be able to get a hold of some people, and somebody else who's selling something else may be able to get a hold of different people, and so you'd want to share that information. I mean, I don't want to take a long time, but I've got a client right now where I'm selling only ads and someone else is selling exhibit space. We're prospecting to the same people. So what we do, though, is we share lists in the sense that anybody who buys an exhibit, she then gives me their information, and I use that for my ad sales. So we are sharing lists, and we're working together even though we're basically selling completely separately.
All right, thank you so much. Our next question is, right now we have basically 3 types of purchases: advertising and publications and on the website, year-round sponsorship, and seminar sponsorships. Do you recommend that we combine them into one package to make that easier?
Yes, I do. I think that the more you can develop packages, the better off you are, because you want people to increase their spend and make it all at one time if you can. But that said, here's sort of the process that I would go through. One, I would figure out what you think those packages should be. Okay, so whether you do gold, silver, bronze, I don't know. That may work, it may not work. You can name them whatever you want. You don't even have to give them names if you don't want to. But yes, I think packages can help. The challenge with packages, though, and this would be step 2, the challenges with packages are that you as an association, you as an individual are deciding what you think your prospects will want in those packages. They may not work for everybody. The price may not work. The benefits may not work. It may work for some people, but it's not going to work for everybody. So when you are doing packages, one of the key things to make sure you include is a tagline, not a tagline, just a sentence or two that says, if we don't exactly meet your budget, don't exactly meet your needs, please contact us immediately because customized packages are available. We will basically what you want to say to them is we will figure out a way to make this work for you. So they don't just look at those packages and go, not for me. I don't want this one. I don't want this one. I don't want this one. Not for me. So I'm out altogether. No, you want them to contact you and have a conversation with you because you can move some things around. You can play with some things. That goes back to sort of that flexibility that I said before. Make saying yes easy. So put together some of those custom packages based on their needs. But if you need to let them know that they are available, or else nobody's going to ask. They're just going to say no. The other thing is I don't think that putting packages together should stop you from selling individual sponsorship of individual items because, again, there are going to be companies that don't want to pay $10,000 or $15,000 for a big package. They just want a booth. They want to sponsor the bags. They want to do something like that. But so that way, if you would start with the packages And that would be your biggest emphasis, is selling the packages. But then as the event gets closer, or as people reach out to you and say, hey, do you have a lanyard sponsor? Do you have a bag sponsor? Do you have something like that? Don't not sell those, but sell those in addition to the packages. So that way, if packages the first year you offer them don't do really well, you're not shooting yourself in the foot by not offering those one-off opportunities as well.
All right, thank you so much. Now we are at 2 o'clock. Before we start to wrap up, Scott, do you have any final comments that you'd like to make?
I really don't. I mean, I think I'm hoping this is helpful. Again, sales is not easy. I think consistency, I think effort, I think flexibility, I think persistence is really the key. Getting yourself out in front of the prospects with a clear message on a regular basis is going to help a ton. I know it's not the be-all, end-all, but being out there, clear messages, knowing your audiences, following the 10 steps that I gave you, I think which should hopefully help increase your revenue. Again, I want to reiterate that if anybody has any questions or anybody wants to follow up with me in any way, I'm happy to answer them. So you can definitely give me a call, shoot me an email, and I'm more than happy to help.
All right, and before we wrap up today, I just want to remind everyone that our next event is Friday, October 11th, and this event will be Fierce Membership, Developing Your Best Brand Advocates Using Video. And everyone, what you should now see on your screen is a quick survey. We ask that before you log off today that you take a moment to fill out this survey. The feedback that you give us really goes a long way in helping us prepare for our next events. I would like to go ahead and thank Scott for his excellent presentation, and I'd like to thank our audience members for their participation and their wonderful questions, and that concludes today's event. You may now disconnect.